Yep, there it is. No doubt about it. Crystal clear. Look at it. Plain as day. Alright, let's do part 12. In this episode, we're going to ask if Charley Boy really is the GOAT. A closer look at a familiar friend. More blowing of the Trump. Election weirdness, messianic madness, all coming up. I thought this was the most convincing work on Charley Boy's portrait at the time. From Doc Savage on YouTube, check out the channel. I'd seen lots of folks talking about this, particularly on X, and wasn't convinced, but this version made me think twice. So I did a bit of digging, and Charley Boy might not be the goatiest of all time, but he is definitely up there. He likes to make idols of them. He has been called one by his very own wife. And the day after he was proclaimed the new king of England, back in 2022, the British Army paraded a real live horned one around the capital city of Wales in his honour. A very interesting date here. Gives us another mirror. Very interesting indeed. And I know that you can find all kinds of patterns in pictures and paintings with a bit of mirror magic. If you look hard enough, you can see a little demon in this one. Could all just be a big coincidence. But the fact that there is a butterfly on Charley Boy's shoulder, it almost invites us to make that happen. But either way, I just want to do a little rewind here. When I did this, given all this, I'm going to update the model. Given that Charley Boy got a lovely purple, expensive hat on the day, I'm going to give the Baphomet a lovely purple, expensive crown. So I put Charley Boy's new purple crown on the Baphomet almost a year to the day that they may have put Baphomet in his portrait. But I think this has to be my all-time favourite Baphomet mirror on the €50 note. Get rid of that, mirror it, put it together. Wow, take a look at that. And fittingly, there's often the head of royalty on European money after all. But the Charles portrait was defaced by these hooligans, animal rights protesters, when they pasted the head of Wallace on it, from Wallace and Gromit. And apparently, Wallace's common name is Wallace McFadden. According to this website, anyway. Don't you just love Gematria sometimes? Another rewind here to part 11 when I said these protests may turn sour. And turn sour they definitely did. And I also talked about this phrase in that last episode. And curiously enough, when the protests culminated in a bit of religious tension, somebody was waving this flag around all over the place. It even got on the TV news. And talking of that phrase, this X post from the official account of a certain state is concerning. Really makes you wonder what they're getting at here.
They didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked. I thought it was very strange.
Will we see another dance on another day? Maybe it'll be when a certain star appears. 927 has a certain ring to it. And more news on a contender for that thorny crown. Somebody wrote a song for Trumpety Trump. Outstanding with the chosen one. Ain't no stopping what the Lord begun. So the almost certain next Prez of the US being called the Chosen One yet again. Chiming in with his own delusions.
I am the chosen one.
Trump's chart is interesting. Let's take a look. The Sun-Uranus conjunction here in Gemini. And with Jupiter having entered Gemini in May this year, it will soon transit this conjunction this November. Uranus being the planet of shocks. Doubtful that an election win will be as shocking this time. What other shock can we expect?
God literally gave us Donald Trump, and they are going to try to assassinate President Trump.
Has there ever been a more divisive character than the Donald of Trumpton? Well, maybe. Maybe there has. I mean, it could be either one for either one. Charley with his Baphomet crown on the model from 8A. Trump has also featured in there too, from the Synchronical vid, back in 2017. But either way, it keeps you in this plantation, waiting for someone to come and save you. Whoever that may be. Continuing with a royal theme here, they held the Garter shenanigans ceremony again this year. And as I mentioned back in part 4, here's conservative Edward Heath. Had some interesting associates, so he did. Here's red flavour Harold Wilson. Both got in the Garter order. And a similar thing happened this year at this year's ceremony. A very familiar face. An ex-Prime Minister got his Garter, and the Prime Minister before that, the grey one, as he was known, him as well. So again, it doesn't matter if you're on the red or the blue team, the central grand prize can be obtained if you behave well enough. And continuing the purple theme, the BBC's election logo is out for this year's general election in the UK. They like their cubes for elections, the BBC, but the BBC logo gets very interesting. It's meant to be a timely 24, but when you highlight this bit and do a bit of the old evolution on it, well, 2 + 4 = 6. Is it a hexagon or 2 cubes? Let's give it centre stage. And it gets even better. Look at this, an exact match. Now obviously there's no way this is intentional. It's all just a big coincidence. And this bit as well. If we flip this over, it isn't anything like the seal of Saturn at all. All just a big coinkydink. And then they had some political debate recently where the audience could ask questions. I wonder if he knows what he's holding. But I mean, look at this. It's a Saturn festival. She's even standing in a hexagon within a hexagon. And you might as well just put candles on their heads and have done with it. Needless to say, this is going in my collection. Complementing the Binance cubes very well, I feel. But just getting back to the Garter briefly, I just want to further verify its symbolic nature.
Every year, the procession of Knights of the Most Noble Order of the Garter draws thousands to Windsor Castle. The order was founded by Edward III when Joan, Countess of Salisbury, dropped her garter during a royal celebration. To save her embarrassment from the jests of his courtiers, the king, tying the garter to his own knee, made one of the most quoted remarks in history. Honi soit qui mal y pense. Shame to him who thinks evil of it.
In essence, this countess, her garter dropped off and then was picked up and worn by this king. So the garter that the order is based on was worn by both a male and a female. It is, in a sense, androgynous, belonging so very well on the model. Let's look to the future briefly. As Pluto is still loitering on that 0-degree line of Aquarius until November 19th, it was there during the USA's inception and early revolutionary history. I just want to take a brief look at the astrological echoes between then and now. As we know, Pluto was at the 0 degree, and back then, astrological Uranus was in Gemini, and it will then arrive at the 0 degree of Gemini on July 8th, 25. Neptune was in Libra back then, and soon it will oppose that position at 0 degrees of Aries on the 31st of March 2025. And then after that it will be joined there by Saturn. I think this is going to be a very important period, but I'll pick that up in part 13. Please give us a like, please share, please subscribe, leave a comment, please consider supporting this unique original work with the links below. And I shall see you next time.